Good morning, all. This is
Uh,
Jose from EMI.
Hey, Jose.
Hey.
Morning, afternoon.
Yes, afternoon. Time is flying.
Hey, Alex.
Hello, everyone. This is from EMI.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
We can now, Alex, yes.
Wow.
Did you have some trouble getting your audio to work?
Yeah,
Yeah.
if I could count the number of times still Steve Jobs would be spinning in his grave over the how Macs operate right now, I would be rich.
Alex, did you see my note that I need to jump over to the Mac call today?
I did not.
Okay. Epon is going to join, by the way, today. Just shadow the meeting.
Okay.
I sent a message to you and Jonas that I need to jump over to this other meeting. He's just going to. So Epon's going to listen in on the meeting today, get the feel of what's going on.
Is he on right now?
I think he is.
Hey, Alex.
Epan, you want to introduce yourself so everyone knows your voice?
Yeah, sure. So this is Ipan. So I'm the program manager in Intel. And so previously I ran a few programs for Intel, like ONAP, OPNV, and also Aquino in all those projects at Linux Foundation, open source projects. Yeah, and I've been working with Alex and Bob for a while.
Thanks for joining today.
Yeah.
So,
I'm gonna let you guys drive the agenda. Then I need to jump over to this. I got the first topic on the Mac.
Okay. Jonas, do we both put in some agenda topics for everybody?
Yeah.
My request.
Alex, I'm driving from the airport right now, so I have one topic, but if you could drive your topics, and I'll try to be on mute to not, let the noise through and unmute when I need to.
Yes, not a problem. Just procedurally, we ask people to put names of their companies next to their names. I recognize just about everyone, but not everyone. Maybe somehow I missed it, but please do that if you can, if you're using Zoom. So for the agenda today, we had, let's review what that is. Let me get the agenda up and share it. Let's see. Here you go. Can everyone see?
Yes, Alex.
Okay. Yep. Short agenda today, but let me enlarge the things here so that We're okay. So 3 topics. One is industry outreach. We've been all trying to organize conversations with different groups like CNCF and DMTF and others. Just wanted to start maybe tracking that at the community level and just kind of make sure we nail down the dates for when we're speaking in front of what forum. In some cases, I think we've kind of said, yeah, we have somebody who will arrange the connection to happen, but we need dates. And so I figured, we can at least enumerate, we can at least list all the engagements that we want to do, all the outreach meetings that we have coming up, and then we can talk about, what dates and who will do the presentations, who will do the talking and all that. Then we'd like to talk about our collaboration plans and contribution plans. I guess I should have said that as opposed to collaboration. Let me just add myself. Okay, now I can log in. So contribution plans. Rafael's going to talk about that. We can at least provide some sense of, what our thinking is. And then Jonas is doing the last topic, which is the training session. Any other agenda items we need to address today?
Alex, one topic that I had in mind is about the hardware lab.
Okay.
I saw an email from DMTF saying that there is an interoperability lab for Redfish. Is there any opportunity for ODIM to leverage that?
Let's put this on the agenda and we can talk about it. That's a good topic. So Redfish Inter Lab. Let's see how well I do typing early in the morning. So we'll do that. So anything else we need to add, guys? Going. You can always add things in the end if we come up with something, but let's start in this order, I guess. So what I did is I created a community outreach page, and I started filling it out, but I kind of lost track of what we some of these things. And so I was kind of hoping that collectively between all the folks who've been involved in kind of driving different conversations, we can fill this out. So I know that AMI has been very actively pursuing panels and presentations on ODIM at different Linux Foundation events. May I impose on you guys to fill in the industry events section so that, when people come here, A, they know where we're speaking, and B, we can keep track of, what needs to be done and whether or not we can actually participate. Would that be okay?
Sure, Alex. Yeah, we can take care of that.
Okay. And then the other pieces we have been kind of tracking were the different sessions within DMTF and also CNCF Telecom Working Group. Sebastian has been trying to arrange, what happens there. CNTT, we had some follow-up discussions. I think there is also OCP and Open BMC that we wanted to kind of talk to as well. So I guess what would be good is if we could solidify some dates for these, right? So I'm hoping that some of the folks who could help with this are on the phone. So let's see.
So this is John. Do you want me to report out now or just update the wiki?
Let's talk about it, John. Yeah,
okay.
Whatever you can do.
DMTF Redfish Forum, the DMTF is pretty rigorous about not favoring any implementation of Redfish. So what we decided was that they meet 2 times a week. So they would have a Thursday morning meeting at 8 o'clock, which they meet every week. Go ahead and set up a an ODIM meeting at that time slot, and they will send the invitation out to the Redfish Forum and anyone else at the DMTF who wants to.
Okay, this Thursday is kind of obviously too close to call and all that. Could we do it next Thursday?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay,
They just said tell them, and they'll delete the meeting for that day and assign this to it. So it's not
great.
DMTF.
Can you work that on our behalf?
Yep.
Okay, so that would be the 10th.
Mhm.
Okay. And once we know the logistics, we should put them in here, okay?
Right.
Okay. Why don't we do all the other stuff too, like OCP and OpenBMC? Because
So for OCP, let me do OCP while I'm there. So OCP, I assume it's the telco project we want to present to, and they have a calendar which I'll. Oh,
yeah,
yes.
keep going. That's
Okay.
just my alarms going off.
Okay. Oh, they have two. They have two meetings. The telco meeting and then the sub-project meeting for Open Edge, and the calendars on the network. So the next Open Edge meeting is on the 8th, the day after Labor Day, and then the next telco main meeting is October 1st.
So with OCP, we wanted to socialize the notion of ODIM profiles and trying to kind of normalize the, what information elements are implemented by different implementations. Should we do that in one of these two sessions, or is there a more global forum where the folks who participate in Open Edge as well as the telecom group would attend as well?
They both have their own mailing list, so the invitation could be sent out to both, and then just pick a meeting. And
should we try for October 1st then, and invite the other guys to participate?
We can. So one thing, who is actually working on the profile in OCP? Do we know what working group is behind that, or because that's a discussion we want to have. I looked at the profiles and they're great. They're a little dated as far as versions and things. So who are the right guys to talk to, John? Do you know?
Yeah, that would be the hardware management project. So the way I'm segmenting the creation of profiles is that there's a usage guide, which is just deals with the mockups, and that should be owned by the telco project. And then once they're finished with the usage model, they can hand it over. They can either create the profiles themselves, or they can hand the usage document over to the hardware management group. And the hardware management group, who has all the SMEs for profiles, can generate their own profiles.
So it sounds like we need to have the hardware management folks and the open and the telecom.
Well, it depends on what you're trying to do, right? You present in an OCP meeting in order to gain interest of a collection of people that you can go spawn a group with or some project, right? So, to go off and do work. So this is not, you got to figure out what your initial meeting is trying to do.
We're trying to kind of, well, I think the goal for a lot of these sessions is to introduce what ODIM is doing and the synergies that we would expect to foster between a particular community we're presenting to and ODIM. And in particular here, we already know what we want to do. And so we might want to bring that up explicitly and then talk about how we move ahead.
Right. So it's up to it will be up to the telco group to decide whether they want to do both the usage model, whether they want to spin off a work stream to generate a usage model guide and then generate the profiles themselves. It can all be done within the same group.
My only concern is that by making it too telco centric, we might miss things.
So I can give you a list of all the projects within.
Is there a general meeting that we can go to and kind of kill multiple birds with one stone, so to speak?
No. You can go to OCP Summit. you may be able to talk to the IC, but the IC's
Okay.
way too busy.
All right. So why don't we start with the telecom group? But I think eventually we want to, yeah, and then but eventually we do want to make sure people understand this is not just for telco. So the next telco meeting is when, John?
October 1st. October 1st at 1 p.m. Eastern time, sorry.
And
how can we get on that agenda? Sorry, yeah. Do we know how we can get on their agenda? Is that something you can arrange for John? Or?
Yes, I can.
Okay. And
how much time would you need?
I would figure an hour.
I doubt if they'll give you an hour. The entire meeting is an hour.
Okay, half an hour.
Okay.
And then there's Open BMC.
That I can't help you with.
There we need to talk to the Redfish guys, I think.
Okay.
I don't know how that project is structured, but it means that there is a separate repository for the Redfish.
Open BMC is a Linux Foundation project.
Yeah.
And so it's not handled by the Fresh Forum guys at all.
All right. So we need to do some work here then. Okay. And then on CNCF side, Sebastian, are you on?
Yes.
I can't see. Yes.
Yeah, I'm here.
So you kind of brokered a connection there, and I guess we need to nail down a date for when we could go and present in front of the telecom working group. Am I labeling it correctly? It's telecom working group, right?
Yeah, telecom user group. Yeah, I mean, they have the meeting every first Monday of the month, and next meeting is next Monday on the 7th at 11 o'clock UTC, or next time. So they're iterating every time between China friendly time and Pacific friendly time. In October, it would be 8 a.m. Pacific time.
I think that would be better. So 8 a.m. Pacific, and that would be what date? October what?
I think October the 5th.
Okay. 8 a.m. Pacific. Can you reserve a slot for us so we can do the presentation?
Yeah, I will try.
Okay. Okay, and then Bob, are you still on? Well, I guess with CNTT, Martin, you had kind of presented to those guys already, right? Is Martin on? No, he's not.
I thought Martin was not going to make it today. I tried to have him dial in because I knew I was going to be in a car, but he had something else.
Okay, so we just need to figure out, if there's any work to do in CNTT, and if there isn't, we can just, we can call it done. So, let's put a TBD here. Are we missing anything else in terms of open source discussions and communities and all that, at least initially?
Probably, but I don't know what we're missing.
Okay, well, so feel free, everybody, to add additional additional sort of items here, and let's track them here at least. But at least we have a few kind of nailed down that are kind of high priority, I would feel, especially the OCP one. So let's go with that, and then. On the industry event front, I think we have 2 or 3 different possibilities. We just need to we can go through them now if we have everything handy, or we can add this in later. If you guys also know of other events, different industry events where presenting this would be useful, let's just add that in. We can decide, who can do the talk.
A quick question. Who should I say is presenting if we've decided?
You can put down myself and Jonas. You know, we will tag team it, or
Okay.
you know, myself, Jonas, and Martin. I guess I don't know, unless somebody else wants to do
I'll
it.
put one of your three
Yeah,
names. As long as I have a name for it,
yeah.
we're okay.
But just so everybody is aware, if anybody else wants to help out with the presentation,
Yeah.
this is not like an exclusive thing. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not dying to do these presentations for the rest of my life. So personally, so if anybody else wants to jump in, that's perfectly fine.
And do we have a slide set already? So someone can look at it and see if they can present?
Yeah, there's slides. Yes, they're posted. They are posted. Let me update this. In the documents section, I think.
Go through them and see if there are any updates needed. Alex,
Yeah.
we can do that.
Yeah, so you see the formation proposal and overview, and so it's all here. Okay. All right. So, you know, the page is anchored here on the left. If anybody has additional ideas, thoughts, please add those in. So let's go back to meetings. I think, Raffle, you're next.
All right, let me start sharing.
Okay.
Please let me know if you can see the screen.
We can.
See.
And you can see the presentation, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You might want to go
So
into presentation mode just to make it larger. That's all.
Yeah. It doesn't help. I've got 3 screens, and it's you know, the one I'm presenting is the last to show the full screen. So
okay, fine.
Yeah, I just make it larger.
It works.
Okay, so first of all, my name is Rafał Steina. I'm representing Intel. I'm a software architect in Network Platform Group. And I'm also co-located with the engineering team who would like to, you know, contribute to the Open Distributed Infrastructure Management project. We have some experience managing the data centers, talking to the BMCs over the Redfish, writing the code for it. So we have some plans how we can contribute from Intel side, but also collaborate with others, with other stakeholders represented by the TSC here. So first of all, Intel and our team would like to focus initially on the BMC simulator. We see that you know, the let's say the bottleneck for the contribution to the ODIM from all the, you know, stakeholders would be probably the hardware lab, the test equipment, right? So I think that BMC simulator could be of value here. And as it turns out, we have used in the past such simulators, so we are thinking and trying to, let's say, change it to fit it nicely to the ODIM purposes. Next, we would like to focus on items that needs to be fixed within ODIM. So we know that there was proposals from the ODIM TSC to add 2 items: plugin for and manage racks and update service, which was discussed in the previous meetings. It was mentioned. I have some some discussion ideas around those topics. I think that this is the right approach would be maybe to start some working groups, and let's say people who are interested could, you know, collaborate within those working groups on the design for those, you know, components, right? How it fits ODIM, how it fits the underlying hardware, because the hardware is not homogeneous yet, right? The Redfish API and the support in BMC is very different. So there would also be a need for the plugin, but there would also be a need for specific, you know, services within ODIM to support specific functionality. For example, update service. It's a complex topic. And you know, one of the, let's say, far-fetched items Intel would like to collaborate and contribute would be the telemetry framework, telemetry storage framework, analytics framework. So we have to talk a lot about what would be the best interface, how we can influence the ODMs to write, you know, very interfaces in such a manner that telemetry is harvested with optimal performance. As we know, the Redfish as a REST-based interface may not be the perfect match for the telemetry streaming. So yeah. Okay. And you can stop me at any moment and ask questions, please, if needed. The BMC simulator, we would like to focus on, I just, put here the latest version of the Redfish schema and the latest version of the interface spec from Redfish. So basically what it is, it's just a REST server which exposes Redfish data model and is able to offer some functionality like, I will have let's say, more complete list on the next slide, but just to level set of the simulator, DMTF version compliance, I think we all take very seriously in the ODIM community that it has to, be compliant to the Redfish DMTF model, and all the code within the ODIM will focus on compliance with Redfish.
Rafael, I think this is also where our profile work would help, right? So as soon as we've done some profiles and we know about the properties, they could be present in this simulator. And then I wanted to ask you, and perhaps you get into that, but what about other things like eventing and things? Is that something the simulator supports?
Yes, so this is a good question and a good statement, Jonas. Eventing is currently not supported, but we can augment this functionality. And one of the takeaways from this session would be probably getting your idea on features that such simulators should have. We could also start some wiki page, right, and let's say collaborate offline.
Yeah, I think we have the beginning of the development projects page. There's a bunch of stuff listed there already. We can add these 3 projects to that list, and then link them to individual pages to talk about the gory details. I think if we do that, that would be good.
Absolutely.
Rafael, this is Jose. One question I had is about the older versions. Are we always planning to support the later versions alone, or will we go back to, let's say, like 1.2, 1.5 and simulate those Redfish specs as well?
So, Jose, I think it's a perfect question, and this is one of, if we scroll, 2 slides, forward, you will see my question about the data model we want to focus on with the simulator, because from development perspective, we can code anything. From the ODIM community perspective, this is actually the right question. Should we, let's say, base our simulator first on, let's say, based on some ODM platform interface, specific interface, or should we base our simulator on the, let's say, set of OCP profiles, as Jonas mentioned, right? I think it's an open.
I would argue that doing it based on the OCP profiles that either we define or already exists might be better, because that's more targeted. And also what I think we need to do is decide which versions of the data model and the specification we would support. And it may not be just one, it may be a range, because not everybody can move in unison and all of a sudden switch over. So
yes,
that's something we would need to consider. But what we should probably do is put a stake in the ground and say, okay, for the purposes of ODIM, we're going to start with Redfish version, X.Y, and in terms of the schema and a particular specification version, and that's it. And then going forward, we can decide whether or not we need to support everything, or we just have a sliding scale that maybe does n+1, n-1 in terms of releases, something like that.
Yep.
Sounds good, Alex. Yeah.
All right, moving on with this slide. I'll just briefly, touch upon the features. So first of all, this simulator is just the REST server serving Redfish schema. It can be customized. The first level of customization happens in the source code. where you can dynamically, construct the service route and underlying collections and endpoints, and let's say actions based on those endpoints. But there's also configuration within the JSON, which is the input file for when you spawn or you start a specific instance of the simulator, and it allows for providing the information for binding, like what should be the IP address and the port used for a specific instance of the simulator running, configuration of authentication, BMC user credentials, and possibility to add resources in collections. One of the items we added, and this is actually important to support expand and levels, right? Parameters. As we know, nature of Redfish may be sometimes very, let's say, hard to crawl the entire Redfish tree. Therefore, expand, I think it gives much better performance in terms of if you have to scroll specific service downstream, and global hooks to change your body or return code for specific, let's say, actions or post actions, just to test out behavior of the BMC or simulator, as well as override allowable values that the BMC returns. So these are very basic, let's say, description. We can give some walkthrough or demo once we are closer to contributing to the source code. One of the questions, and this is actually we talked about, is I need to have some design points. What would be the, let's say, flavor of the Redfish interface that we will initially focus? Because I can see that the simulator at the end of the day should be able to simulator can be very customized, right? It can be compiled to let's say mimic HP or let's say Quanta or Dell hardware. So I imagine at the end of the day we want to test variety of hardware, or simulate variety of hardware to show the ODIM heterogeneous nature.
So I think Rafael, that having the ability to set up those type of simulations will benefit a lot of individual companies and people that they just want to test different type of plugins and these type of things. But then if we look at it from a CI/CD, I mean, I can see that this thing could be in the CI/CD pipeline as well.
Yes.
And there, it's probably better to focus on making it mimic something that would conform to our profiles, so that the generic Redfish plugin we have can be evolved to be useful, and have that to be able to add and remove servers and test eventing and these type of things. So yeah, flexibility I think is the key here if it's possible. Of course.
Yes.
Yeah,
Jonas, but just to discuss on this OCP profiles, whereas it's very good base, and the Redfish support for profiles it was very good addition, and John can talk about this for hours probably. The point I'm trying to make is I'm not sure if compliance to set of OCP profiles would be good enough to describe the behavior of the full Redfish service. For example, whether
it won't. It won't.
Yes.
The OCP profiles were designed to have a low bar, so people
Yes.
can pass it and get on stage and rah for it. So you guys need a much higher level of performance.
Yeah, but this is also something we should cover with OCP, because I think the ODIM profile would specify precisely what is expected if you want to be ODIM compliant, right?
And it can do that with the same model that OpenRMC does. OpenRMC defines the northbound profile, right, interface, and then defines southbound requirements that can be implemented as Redfish, as I2C, as whatever, as SNMP, as whatever you want to implement it as. And so it just sets it as a set of requirements as opposed to, so it can be done in any type of implementation. And ODIM can do the same thing. And then it can define a profile to comply with the northbound, and it can define a profile to be conformant to the southbound requirements. And you just run the southbound profile against conformant implementations that want to snap into ODIM.
Yeah. So I think in terms of priorities, that's something we would vet, I think, in a more detailed discussion, Rafael, right?
Yes,
I like
yes.
your idea. We can use the same Zoom meeting. We just need to schedule it on a different date than this meeting. And, you know, we can certainly spin off a separate stream that deals with the simulation and kind of get it out there as fast as we can, even if it's not complete.
Sure.
Gives everybody else an opportunity also to kind of, you know, get in there and you know, kind of participate if they want to.
Exactly. Let's collaborate.
Yeah.
Just so I understand, Raphael, is this thing a Java animal or is it something else? Just trying to see how it's fitting our.
It is actually Kotlin.
C, did you say?
It's what?
Kotlin is yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
What is it?
So let's.
Kotlin is a JVM language.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
Rafael, I had a question and a suggestion. The question was like, the simulator would be capable of simulating multiple BMCs, or how does it work?
Yes.
Okay.
It's highly customized, so you can have multiple simulator that are connected and they simulate single BMC, or you can have, you know, one simulator per BMC and then spawn multiple instances.
Yeah, I mean, we shouldn't probably deep dive into the design details. It would be nice to make that externalize that and kind of make it configurable so that you don't have to recompile the simulator all the time. But at minimum, we would support OpenBMC, right?
Which is actually an excellent idea how to, you know, as a starting point, once we confirm the OpenBMC is good enough in terms of the Redfish, you know, Norbound interface.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big if, though. That's a big if. I mean, let's look at that and let's. I think the requirement.
So yeah, we should probably capture in the minutes, and this would be for this working group that will be taking care of the simulator to be, you know, to let's say to find out if the OpenBMC interface is mature enough to be used here. What is the current stage?
Yeah.
Okay.
And
any more
Rafael,
questions?
the other thing is that I didn't see anything about eventing. You know, if it has support for raising events.
Yeah, that was.
So this is the change request that was raised during this meeting. Yeah,
okay.
We'll add eventing. Okay, so I have some, you know, just touching. I would like to touch points on the change request, as we can call it, that was raised on the ODIM TSC wiki page. One was plugin for managed racks, right? And this was to model the entire rack, because currently most of the racks are not centrally managed from the rack level, so it's just individual set of the server or the BMC interfaces that is, you know, discovered in the network. And let's say the ask was to come up with the plugin that would mimic or the let's say management software within the rack to show the topology. Of course, it should be configurable to allow for, let's say, the data center administrator or orchestrator to provide what servers are, let's say, located in specific rack. So my assumption is that this would be regular plugin, regular Redfish aggregator southbound plugin. It would expose configuration interface, so the, let's say, user can supply information on which servers are connected to what rack. I think the only open here is that we need to, let's say, agree on the modeling, on topology modeling. There are multiple levels you can model the rack hierarchy within the, let's say, Redfish. There is a chassis location, which is very, you know, detailed set of properties, including zip code location, GPS, you know, coordinates. There is this, you know, parent-child, let's say, relation that can be used, contains or contained by. And I know that in the past, Intel used some, you know, vendor extension to show parent-child topology. So one of the insights, or, you know, I'm looking from the TSC or working group, would be what would be preferred way to model the hierarchy within the rack server.
It should be normative, so we know how to traverse things regardless of whose implementation it is.
which is a ideal world, but I think I'm
Well,
afraid
but you
the
know,
redfish.
sometimes you have to make changes, right? I know how it's done,
Yes.
but this is one of those discussions that we can have with John and see if we can augment some of the stuff. I don't know.
Yeah,
But
I see John as one of vital contributors here as well.
Is that
I
so
think,
you know what the hierarchy is?
Yeah.
Okay. Right.
it
No.
would be
So
beneficial.
I had some ideas on how to do that, which we can use.
Okay, let's talk about that. Jonas, you had something?
Yeah, I think so. We have looked at this, and that's what drove the changes that contains now is read writable and things in the latest spec. And I think it's when we do this type of contribution, I think it's very beneficial if we can form some sort of a working group or something that can meet for a while, and we don't have to have a detailed spec or anything, but we can at least agree on these type of things like model and what we want to model.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
So I took an AR to kind of spin up a new group, and we will do that.
Sounds like a plan.
Very nice.
All right, and one of the disclaimers. Such
I'm
plugin.
sorry, guys. I forgot to say something. I wanted to say something else. We also need to accommodate in here, not right away, but you know, if you think about it, they're kind of emerging technologies that are kind of, I guess, there's a new set of companies out there that are working on data center in a box kind of concepts, and how they manage things and how they organize things may not be done in a very traditional way. And so the same is true about companies that are engaged in disaggregated designs, right? You know, from a hardware point of view. So just a note to us. Whatever we do needs to be future proof a little bit, right? So let's not assume that the world will always consist of racks and chassis.
True. I think what you're saying, Alex, is basically we want to be sure that the consumers of our APIs, Norban from ODIM, are able to or willing to, you know, digest or consume this information, and whether it's useful or not.
Yeah. Well,
which makes sense.
Yeah. Hopefully it's useful.
That's a good idea. So the final disclaimer on this one, what I would like to state is that this plugin, I would call it dummy plugin in a way. You can configure it to show the hierarchy of the rack, you know, server submodules, but it won't be active component. You cannot manage specific server using this plugin. Or you cannot manage rack, you know, being like rack power on, power off using this dummy plugin. Although you could think of this plugin, you know, trying to, you know, daisy chain or, you know, call different plugins for individual servers. But I'm not sure it was the intent here.
What do you mean? What do you mean? You mean the plugin? It's just a stub?
Yeah, my let's say. My plan was just to make sure that this is a stub which you can configure. It will show you the care. It's more like asset inventory, you know, retrieval information for the orchestrator. If you want to do the rack level management on the racks that do not support rack management, I don't think it's very useful here.
Yeah. I think the inventory would be very useful because, and if we can expose that inventory in, let's think about what that means, right? Because without naming lots of names, there's at least one or two companies out there that are doing things where the inventory would have to have sort of active kind of components as well as spare components, right? And we need to kind of account for that, because I think that's kind of the direction we're all headed in terms of XPU and DPU designs.
Okay. Yeah, I imagine in the future when we have some OCP solutions racks based on the OpenRMC with the, let's say, active management functions, right? There will be controllers that would be run the OpenRMC firmware software and
Yeah,
expose the API. This,
but then
the
we don't
ODIM
need
will, yeah.
yeah,
Then
then
we
we
don't need
don't
this
need
one.
that. No, we don't need it because that thing will have a resource manager, and that thing will have things like power modules and
Exactly,
operations and
exactly.
carry on. So then we don't need that. We could potentially come up with a generic rack plugin for those things if we feel we need a plugin at all. We just need to look at that, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so I think we're identifying a ton of issues that we need to go through in a separate track. I'm just sensitive to time. I want to give Jonas enough time to kind of go through his item.
Okay.
How much do you have left?
I have just one slide left. Let's just
Mine is
quickly.
very short. I'm just going to ask you about a date. So don't. I need like 3-4 minutes.
Okay.
I'm almost done, so just let me hear me out of the update service. I just want to start discussion, and then we can, spawn the working group to work on it. I was doing actually the update service in one of the product solutions for Intel, and this is it can get tricky. And just give you some touch points. First of all, in the Redfish environment, the hardware there is no standard. Although we have standard APIs for update service, we have simple update, which was first. The HTTP push URIs, it was the second, and I guess John was one of the authors of these changes in the data model. And the simple update is actually using the pull model. The HTTP push URI is using push model. Then so it's to support each of those flavors, you need different behavior from the BMC perspective. And then from your management software perspective, you need sometimes, if you let's say supporting simple update, you need to set up the web server which would host the image to the BMC. So all in all, from the ODIM perspective, there is a couple of let's say areas that ODIM has to come up with the design. First of all, we need the software repository. Let's say ODIM has to expose API to update images. We need to bear with the different ODM firmware image format. Each plugin has to have the shim layer to translate to its own hardware, but this is not as easy as just translation between endpoint with specific properties or action with specific properties to a different action, because when you switch from the pull to the push model, then you have to set the web server at times. And yeah, and then we need this dedicated service, probably above the design of the resource aggregator, to, let's say, to support this software repository. And one of the actions or one of the design choices would be, how is the firmware software update action triggered? Is it called by orchestrator? It be probably the very first approach. Then what about the ODIM managing or doing sort of the cruise control, where someone is providing the image and the ODIM as a management software is making sure all the underlying hardware is running latest firmware.
And how does that integrate with onboard firmware resilience capabilities?
Exactly.
That's the other key question.
Yep. And John, you were trying to chime in.
So this is John. Your first line is now obsolete because we're working on a version for a replacement. I'm sending you the white paper, and the new process actually has verification steps in the firmware update installation. So hopefully, my goal is to connect that up with PFR. But it's not all fleshed out, the security side of it. So any feedback on what we're doing so far would be good. Okay.
Thanks,
so
John.
just in case,
Alex. Yeah.
So quick questions. So in case I didn't catch it, when are you releasing this as something we can start playing with in the source code in the community? I mean,
I think this is a new project that was proposed originally by the HPE folks. And we would like, I think what Rafael is saying is we would collaborate, and these are the issues that we see as necessary to address as part of that project. So I don't know if we have code for this, but
no, we don't. I mean, we have. You can look in the source, and there will be some branches probably addressing some of this. But I think this is also something that requires much more discussion. So we should probably try to form a separate group and perhaps create some part of the wiki. And
so
that is the plan.
So Rafael, we've been slowly implementing this, and in terms of setting up the HTTP server for the repository is not a big deal. But there are, as Jonas and John said, there are other important issues like covering all the kinds of firmware. It's just simple update semantics today doesn't help a lot. It's only the basic things are all types of firmware. And also if you're talking about ODIM being driving the firmware and all that, then the mandate goes from resource aggregator to manager.
Yes.
I'm not just bringing it up. And
the other issue here, and again, I don't want to. Potentially, there's more and more onboard embedded capabilities to manage firmware, not just in terms of resilience, but different versions and whatnot that would be embedded inside a particular kind of a system. And if that happens, then we need to kind of understand how do we control that or provide some means of oversight over what happens, if any, right? Because it could be a completely autonomous system that has a mind of its own and doesn't want to be controlled.
Yes, and also I guess another topic would be the granularity, right? Whether we allow for firmware update and firmware being BIOS or BMC, and we can also imagine some other firmware, let's say, to be updated. Some updates are sometimes not, let's say, read via out of band, but there is always let's say pros versus cons, whether we allow for each individual firmware component update on a server or we do the bulk update, which is vendor provides the golden image for which BKC went through. It's well validated. It consists of the firmware updates per all the, let's say, components on the specific server, which can be updated using the BMC itself. And such big packages you just used by ODIM to, let's say, do the one action firmware update, and the BMC is dispatching the individual updates autonomously, right? And whether
and that is
this or we support,
and that's the goal of the new design. Send a single package, bundle all your images together, and let the
don't have to worry about the compatibility of the, let's say, underlying firmware images.
Exactly.
Right?
So that's why. Look at the white paper and tell me if it fulfills your needs.
Okay.
So there is some urgency here because we are currently developing a little bit in this area. So I would perhaps we can start kicking this off, the discussions a little bit earlier than later, if possible.
Sure, but I think what we need is basically figure out what time is convenient. I would imagine it'll be kind of difficult to find a perfect time, but we could alternate maybe between morning and evening if need be.
Because a lot of our resources are in Bangalore. It would be good if we can. Yeah. So what is it, Bharat? Are you on? What is a good time for you guys, as far as if we were to do it in the evening or morning or
Yeah, I mean, we'd prefer to have a US morning time.
Okay.
But then, I think people in Europe will have issue. I think Rafael might be in Europe, isn't it?
Yeah, but we're good. I think with Europe, we're always good in the morning because it's early afternoon for them. So if you guys are okay with early morning, we can schedule a real early morning meeting like 6 a.m. And, it'll be maybe hell for those of us in Pacific Coast, but, everywhere else it'll be fine.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
All right.
Hey, thanks. I'm done. So Jonas, the stage is yours.
Yes. Jonas, you're next.
I think I'm coming into an area where I might lose connection. Hopefully not. So I just wanted to propose that we have a training that we have been working on and we're currently putting together. And it's going to be an overview. It's going to be a little bit about the services. It's going to be how to use ODIM. It's going to also be how to build. And then some minor demo. It's not going to be the code walkthrough. We think we need a separate session for that.
Yes.
So for this first session, then we are ready to go like next Wednesday when we have TSC, or if you feel that we should perhaps take another slot, then we can work on that.
I would argue that we would just use the TSC slot because everybody already has it on their schedules. It'll be easy. Let's just do this there, record it, and then whatever follow-up sessions we need, we can decide what to do. I don't think we have a lot of outstanding agenda items post-holidays. So let's just take it, let's just, put it on next meeting.
Okay, very good. So be prepared with questions. So we think about 40 minutes of material, and then we'll leave 20 minutes for, questions and things.
Okay.
So Jonas, a quick feedback, either on this session or the next one. It'd be ideal if we focus on how the, let's say, individual contributor developer has to work with ODIM, right? So it's built within the Docker, what it takes to build it locally, right? Test it out, and all the caveats of development.
Yeah, Rafael, we'll be talking about the source layout and the build also. So we'll demonstrate the build as well. So things should take care of that.
Yeah, we demonstrate the build in the first session. So that's this is how you build it, and these are the containers that run, and this is the port that you hit to create a session, right?
Yeah, I think what Rafael is saying is the perspective should be of an individual contributor. So it's really about, if Joe Smith wants to start developing code and contributing it to ODIM, this is how they would do it. This is what their development tool chain would look like. This is how they would build and test. This is how they
right. And me as a John Smith, what if I don't want to build in the Docker, right? I just want to build it locally and run it.
Well, that's a discussion maybe for next time, but.
Okay, yeah, let's see if we can touch on some of that. We have a build system right now, and it produces a bunch of containers. We have also, perhaps I don't know if we have really switched over to Kubernetes yet, or that's in plan. But as far as building on a standalone system and put up the services there, let's see what we have time for next Wednesday.
For sure. Yeah. Just giving some thoughts. Okay.
All right, guys. And with that, we're at the top of the hour. So action item for everybody to complete the outreach page with additional information. And then, Jonas, once you get where you're going, we can talk about spinning up these additional groups, and we can do little doodle polls to propose times. So.
Yeah, fire up Slack and reach out to you, Alex.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for coming.
Thanks, guys.
All right, everyone. I'll post the recording on the wiki.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you all.
Thanks, Luis.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. Bye.
Bye.